I'm going to go ahead and get started. All right. We're now live on YouTube. Peace, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. So, we're going to go ahead and get started on episode 8 of Parlez with Sensei Shui. And so, today we're going to be talking about spiritual materialism as well as detachment. So, it sounds like a paradox when I'm saying the words spiritual materialism, but it's not. So when I say spiritual materialism, I'm talking about like when we attach or when you see the industry is attaching spirituality to objects like you could say essential oils or you could say like crystals, like this is a piece of amethyst I got when I was like 6 years old that I picked up, and even things like tapestries, stuff like that, spiritual materialism. So, my reason to address this is because I see at this time there's a lot of people, you could say, quote unquote, waking up and wanting to start on their spiritual journey. And I won't even say start, but start to be like, you know what? This is actually something serious enough in my life for me to put effort in. Like I was talking with one of my really close friends a few days ago, and she was saying that it's work too. If anything, it's the more important work because that's something that carries with you through your incarnations. Because we could focus on work being like what you do that pays the bills, but what's the time between that? Right? What's the work you're doing for yourself? What's the work you're doing to build your spirit up? What is the work to build your level of awareness, get more towards that, say, goal of enlightenment that you always say, hear people say all the time? I'll get to that later, but the thing is, just to start off kind of going hot with spiritual materialism, my biggest thing about it is like when you get into crystals and different things like that, realizing that this is maybe you could say a tool, but this is not like what you see in all these new age stuff like, oh, healing crystal, it does this and da da da. No, they're just realizing that this is a trend and they're trying to sell you things, you know, because you can be aware of this when they're saying the crystal does all this, but they're not teaching you anything about meditation. They're not teaching you anything about why crystals work or the thing behind it when it comes into geometries, right? Let me see if I can get this to focus, right? How does this work? Okay. Yeah, there we go. Into geometries of why the crystals work because that's everything behind it, right? Since reality is of a geometric nature, the entire reason that crystals are supposed to be from, say, a higher dimension. There's this thing going on TikTok right now where it's like, are crystals rocks? Yes, 1,000%. Are crystals entities from the 11th dimension? Yes, 1,000%. All right. If you ask me, that's not good enough to convince me that, oh, this is something. You really need to go into the nitty gritty about, okay, how is this object or this rock or whatever you would call it supposed to be super special in consideration to something that's just on the side of the road? What makes the difference of all this besides it being a beautiful color or something being eye catching, you know? And so I'm going to refer to this book right here, Ancient Secrets, Flower of Life, Volume 2, and talk about geometries. And so all right, I'm just going to take from page 326 and read it verbatim. All right. So this is more talking about geometries. All right. So if you want to study something in nature, you get the components. In this case, light wave and the instrument that receives the light wave, the organic eye, because one will reflect the other in its geometrical makeup. There should be a similarity between the eye and the light wave in their movements as well. If you're trying to build an instrument to receive something, the closer you could duplicate what you're receiving, the better you can receive it. The gentleman discovered after studying just about all types of eyes on the planet, there are 6 categories, just like crystals. There are 6 different types of eyes on the planet Earth. Each living within a type has a geometric as well as physical similarities with every other living thing in this category. All right. So if you notice, one of the things that popped out to it is like, okay, why are there 6 types? Okay, there's 6 types of geometries, just like you could say there are 6 flakes, right? If you've ever seen the cock or Koch snowflake when it has the 6 sides, or if you ever seen um like a Merkaba, or you see the Star of David, why it has 6 sides, just like there's 6 types of geometries. And it's like, what do you mean there's 6 types of eyes? Right. So you notice there's the eye that looks more like a circle. And then if you look at something like a goat, goats have eyes that are more of a square. That's another form of geometry. When you look at like a cat's eyes are different in their perspective. They're more like linear, just like a snakes, right? Cats and snakes, very similar. The others escape me. But when it gets into this goes into the Platonic solids. All right. I know it seems like I'm going out, but I need to explain what's going on behind all of this stuff. When you get into the Platonic solids are the basis of geometry. So it's like a Platonic solid. What makes a Platonic solid basically comes from Plato, right? Platonic solid would be like a triangle, and a triangle, when it's imperfect, that's where the isohedron comes from. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If you like really are on your geometry and the names, please let me know. But basically, it's like when you have a triangle and every face is a triangle and it's equal and all points touch, that's what makes a platonic solid. So triangles have it. A cube is a form of a platonic solid as well. I believe hexagons do it, octagons, and then whatever a nine, like a do, dodeca, it's like a dodecahedron or something like that. But basically it's when it's the same face where it's a bunch of triangles, a bunch of squares, a bunch of pentagons, a bunch of hexagons that fit together at each vertex, that makes a platonic solid, which is the basis of all forms of reality, at least in this dimension, when it comes to even things that are, say, carbon based, or something that's like silicon based, other forms of reality. So what all of that jabber was about, I lost a lot of people on that, but it's okay. When it gets into a crystal, right? The point of it is that this is a tool for you to use. All right. This is a tool for you to use if you so desire. It's not something that's necessary on your spiritual journey. Does it help? Yeah, it can if you believe so that it will. Just like electricity. Think about your phone. It's not just some random wires that are in your phone that make it here. There's a certain type of metal that is used on phone screens. There's a certain type of metal that connects all the components. There's a certain type of metal that allows everything to communicate. Likewise, when you talk about crystals, there's certain types of crystals that are better at holding certain types of vibration. There are certain crystals that are better at holding something that's an intention of healing. Say this is better at holding something like of a psychic nature, not just like, oh, mind psychic, but psychic, like, oh, I'm putting like an intention or wanting to use it to help me focus. Oh, this is better when you would say like gold is more conductive than copper, right? It's the same type of logic. When you get into, oh, these are living entities, yes, everything's living, but I'm not one to go so much because I equate it just like, I think it's like Thor Dark World something. But in that movie, Thor's sister destroys his hammer and then he's destroyed because, like, oh, I can't do anything because I lost my hammer. I lost my hammer. And he gets like really fatty, gains all this weight. But then in this like dream he has, his father, which has passed, talks to him and he's like, what are you talking about? The hammer wasn't your power. The power is within. The hammer was for you to learn how to control and conduct your power. And then, he freaks out. He's like, oh, and then like the lightning goes through him. Likewise, when you talk about crystals, when you talk about wands, when you talk about any types of oils, things like that, these are tools for you to learn how to control the divine energy that comes within. It is not this source, this giant piece of amethyst crystal, or this giant piece of, yeah, any type of crystal basically that, oh, this has all the power, it's this thing, da da da. No, it's you and you're using it as a conduit for your energy. All right. And then also on another side of spiritual materialism, what I want to talk about and get into that relates to this is when it comes to the consumption of items. And it's more like, say, the things I have right behind me, tapestries, right? It's a form of spiritual materialism. What I mean by that is not in a negative construct, but more so, how did that even happen? What? All right. It's not in a negative construct, but rather more so, it is like, all right, forgive me. I was just on a thing. I was just on a rant and then my Instagram went off. Give me a few seconds. I'm gonna go back. I have no idea why that happened. All right, that was really weird. I don't know why I did that. I just had an app come up. But all right, so when I'm talking about spiritual materialism, like these tapestries right behind me, things like that, when it gets to the point where, oh, I'm so spiritual because my shirt has this on it. Oh, I'm so spiritual because I have these things. I'm so spiritual because, oh, check out my crystal, check out my necklace. Okay, that's when it becomes a thing of spiritual materialism, when you're attaching your spirituality to something that's physical, right? When it's not, your spirituality is your relationship with this divine source. Your spirituality is not the practices you do to build up your connection, right? Some of these things may help, but where does the connection come from? It comes from within. That's something I really want to stress, especially to these people who are new. Like, it doesn't matter where you are. It's nice to know or actually have these questions, be like, I haven't really thought of it that way. That maybe a lot of the stuff that we see, especially realize that this world is mostly run by capitalism. A lot of the things that you see when you're getting pushed spiritual ads, yes, they're good, they're great, but are they actually teaching you anything to go within and connect? Are they teaching you anything to go within and reflect? Are they teaching you anything to have some of these experiences yourself, or are they just having you buy that crystal, buy that wand, buy that tapestry for 19.99, and then they're going to send you some push ads for the next 6 months? It's more for you to become aware, just like myself. I need to become aware of, okay, hey, I see what's going on here. I went to school for marketing. So some of this, when I look at ads, I'm like, man, they're doing a really good job. They got me on this one. But likewise, to see how much is it when we're just scrolling down and liking these. Some of these are very profound quotes or messages that other people will give us or provide for us without any type of reflection, without any type of understanding, with especially without any type of application. That's the biggest thing right there, because it all is about application. Because yeah, you're so right, Jen. Yes, the tool needs to help us go in to reflect. Otherwise, it's not a tool, it's a decoration. That's right there. So much so because likewise, if you're not using it, for example, mala beads, I'll talk about those because I don't have. Oh, I will knock this over. I don't have mala beads, but I do have a mala. They're beads, but this is wood, right? So this is wood from a tree in India. Then this was given to me by some of the people I practice yoga with. Okay, for those of y'all who have one of this and or you see these and like, oh, what are they for? All right. So first things first, if a mala is truly a mala, it's either gonna have 50, some multiple of nine number of beads or links on it. All right, because mine has 108. Some of them are bigger and have 54. All right. The reason for this is a tool to be used with meditation, not just a pretty necklace to be like, oh, I'm on my spiritual path, or yeah, I'm on my spiritual path. Yeah, check it out. Like, it's really dope. Matches my shirt. Nah, that's not the point of it. It has 108 because 108 is the amount of distances of moons to the earth. There's 108 earths from the earth to the sun, or something like that. I can do better with my math, but basically 108 is a sacred number. It's a 9 and 12 together. I haven't really gone deep into numerology. I'm not as plugged in right now. But basically, to go in with your mala beads, the entire point of it is you don't cross this part. All right. This is to let you know you're done. When you're doing your mantras or if you're doing breaths, you use these and you go with each, right? You can say really traditional. They say you're not even supposed to use your fingers to go down like this. Oh, excuse me. Ugh, allergies. But if you're using something like this, realize what the point of it is to count your breaths, to count 108 breaths through it, all right? Or to count 54, some multiple of 9, so that you don't lose track of it. Because it is said 108 reverberations is the amount of reverberations that's the most effective for mantras, to do something at least 108 times. That's why mala beads have 108 or 54, or a lot of them, when you find them, they'll say, like, oh, this is imbued or this is blessed with so and so mantra. That's what this is for. Otherwise, if you're not using this for meditation or you're not using this with intention, it's just another necklace. You know, what makes all these things tools is actually using them with intention. Otherwise, it's not a tool, it is a decoration. So, to get into detachment, I see these different things about spiritual detachment without a lot of application, or I won't even say application, without anything more than just a picture of someone going like this in the mountains and then like a nice like quote about it. But without teaching people or providing some type of insight about, okay, what is detachment like in the 21st century? What is detachment like when I'm trying to go through and elevate myself spiritually, right? When it comes to detachment, if you would say, what is my interpretation or my relationship with detachment? Detachment in itself is not always talking about, oh, you go off to the forest and you're not attached to things, or you see 21st century, oh, I'm very detached. I have my van and I like hashtag van life, but you see them on the phone all the time, still attached to some things, right? When I say detachment, I mean your sense of belonging, your sense of purpose is physically attached to some type of object. All right. If you've heard some of the famous gurus say, like Sadhguru, he says, you don't own your clothes, you don't own your guitar, you don't own your house owns you, your clothes own you, your guitar owns you, your shoes own you, your makeup owns you. You don't own any of these things, they own you. And you're like, wait, what a second. No, I bought it. What you talking about? But when it comes to detachment, if these items do own you, think about what it'd be like if, oh, I didn't have this shirt. Peace, brother. If I didn't have this guitar, or if I didn't have this physical thing with me, right? When it starts to be that your attachment to this, or especially our phones, right? If you're attached to a place and it's not as healthy, think about when you maybe like leave your phone like at the house. I'm not saying if someone's going to steal it and you left it at a restaurant, that makes sense. But if you like left it at the house and you're leaving and you actually don't need to call anyone, you know where you're going, you're just going to get some gas and you like freak out and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? That is a point where your attachment to a physical object is taking control of your consciousness. Because think about it, what happens towards the ends of life, or what is life? Where's the one place that all this ends, right? Or rather begins, and we enter another cycle, death. Can we take any of these things with us? No, we cannot. So, thus, more so to learn to attach to ourselves, right? Learn to attach to the divine. Learn how to attach ourselves to the light that shines through us, that animates us, through practicing meditation, through self reflecting, through getting to know these things, and detaching from these physical items that sometimes we we associate so much value and almost identity with. When we say, oh, this is gonna get me in some trouble, but it's a real thing though. If you're attaching so much with like, oh well, I'm American, I'm so and so. Oh, I'm black, I'm so and so. Oh, I'm Moorish, I'm so and so. Oh, I'm white, I'm so and so. Oh, I'm from this country, I'm so and so. Oh, I love this football team, da da da. Oh, I love this soccer team. Oh, this baseball team. If you're not a fan of this, da da, that's an attachment of identity to something that's just a form of consumerism. It is just a form of materialism. It is something that will still be here once this turns back to dust, but we still continue on. So, likewise, when it comes to detachment, it's not talking about getting rid of all these physical things. Rather, it's realizing the role that these physical things play in our life. Realize the role that they serve as tools, just like the crystals, just like these other items, essential oils, wands, whatever you want to call it. They serve as a tool for us to better understand, to maybe remember what we are. It's not who, it is what you are. To be able to understand and comprehend that you incarnated into a physical body to be able to have this experience. Otherwise, in energy form, You're not touching like you can touch now. You're not smelling like you could smell now. You can't even speak and communicate like you can now. You can't even feel or know what it's like to truly hug a loved one in an energy form. Yes, there are forms of sensory, but is it the same? No. Do we learn the value of life and the preciousness of it when we're in a form that does not atrophy, that does not decay? No, that is why time is not experienced in these dimensions. Rather, when you're incarnating into something physical, you start to learn the value of life, the preciousness of the conception of time, why time is an entire realm or a nature, a plane of existence in the first place. I see a lot of things that's like, oh, time doesn't exist, so da da. Well, yeah, you're right, but at the same time, your body is subject to time, so that thus, no matter you like it or not, you will experience time and be forced to live out of bounds by it. Not unfortunately, that's just the way the rules go. Time is a much more powerful law or force than the human will, right? Yes, it is relative to experience, but its effect on the human body is something that you could say is in the source code of this reality. You can do whatever you want. Well, unless you're a gory, but like I'm not even going to talk about that. That's not my specialty. All right. You're gonna come and reincarnate. You're gonna come and reincarnate and decide to do something else. But when it comes to your side of attachment, when you're attaching so much to something physical and it becomes your point of identity, that's when you know, okay, I need to do some work on detachment. So, to share my personal practice of detachment, I do it maybe about once a month ish because I'm about to share something with you that gets pretty intense. So, it is something you do want to do like truly like once a month, once every other month, once a season, because just a heads up, you might want to do it like at night, not in the day, because when you dissociate from things, it's not like, oh, dissociative disorder, but no, it's like it'll take a while to kind of like come back to and be like, oh, okay, hey, this is what's going on. It's like literally spending time. You could either be, it's best to start when you're sitting in a meditation pose or in a chair, because if you're like lying on your back, you probably will fall asleep. You just, I like to call it, it's a checklist. Go from bottom to top. I like to go from bottom to top because it's just easiest, you know? You start with your toes, one toe detached. Like you kind of feel it withering away. Like if you have an eraser and you're just erasing the toes, right toe, the left toes, the feet, the ankles, the calves, the shins, the knees. But you go like a lot slower than I am, right? I'm not going to stand here for like 40 minutes just talking about body parts, all right? But basically make your way up. But especially once you get to your face, all right? Your face is controlled by the brain like everything else, but the face holds a lot of tension. This is where like you'd say all our senses are, right? Like except for touch. We got touch on the face too, but like the other four are all right here. There's a lot of sensory and like say attachment to reality going on right here. So when you're practicing this form of detachment, what you want to practice is once you start to release like your jaw and stuff, you go in loops, right? So you go in loops in a way where it's like, oh, it's my mouth, my teeth, my tongue, my uvula, my jaw, my ears, inside my ears, my forehead, my temples, my crown, my neck, my lips. And what you want to feel is go for like, it'll be like a little pop. Like it's really, really faint. Like it's not like it's gonna be like your ears popping. The best way to describe it, it's like a subtle, like a it's like the tension and the muscles releasing in the face because they're mostly almost always tense when we're walking around all the time. And by the way, it's normal to do this. Like, probably put a towel in your lap because you will drool if you're like me. It happens because you really just detach from like everything. Um, yeah, but practicing that, and then once you're there, start to like erase the physical body. And then once you're there, start to see what's left. Work with what's left, and then even If you find yourself thinking about like, oh, what's my phone doing? Who's going to text me? Oh, this is my laptop. Oh, dog barking in the background. Da da. Start to detach. It's like, oh, this is just a piece of the reality. I'll be back. Oh no, this isn't something. This doesn't exist. This doesn't exist. No, no, no. It's not like, oh, it's never going to exist again. Ah. No, but when you're doing this, know that it's like it's okay to give yourself a break for a little bit when you're doing a practice of detachment. To give yourself this time to really like reset and feel the weight of your body. You'll know when you're this is feeling right because you're going to feel really heavy, and not like heavy heart, but like you will feel that, like, say my arm, right? When I do this, I could feel that my arm weighs like 25 pounds, or for everyone else, about 10 kilos. I'm able to like feel that weight. I can feel the weight of my body. I can feel the weight of my skin. Like it's a shirt that's on my skeleton, right? It sounds very intense. It is very powerful. So, doing this about once a month, it will help you in your spiritual development by like, you'll see. Just like if you actually do it, you'll see. And it's not in a way where you'll dissociate so much from life, but the best way to see it's like you get this new richness to life. You get a new appreciation for things. Colors seem brighter. You appreciate the people around you a lot more because you start to remember and realize, hey, like I'm here to experience these types of interactions. That's why I'm here in the first place. Like that's why I made this choice to incarnate. Otherwise, too much detachment, like almost guarantee, world's just gonna pull you back in. It's a force that's stronger than everything, like the will to live, that will see, right? Stuff like that will happen. All right. Fair warning, when you are practicing detachment or getting into anything that's super deep spiritually, things will happen. You live in the matrix. It is a very real thing. All right. If you see and you see the stuff and it's all fuzzy around me, it's not just the camera. If you look at the wall, you'll see the fuzzies too. You'll be able to tell. But when you get into these deep states, dogs will start barking. Someone will try to come in the room. It's going to want to get you out and distract you, but you need to make sure you stay focused, you stay plugged in, you stay aligned for that time, because then you stay aligned, it just ceases and it stops and you could keep going. Fair warning, this happens literally all the time. It's a thing that you could say it's to make sure who's the like betting out the weak versus the strong. If you're gonna be like, oh, squirrel, well, all right, you just dropped that, you just dropped out that state, right? But that's just a fair warning when you're doing any of these types of practices. That's why I say do it at night, because when you're doing it at night, there's less like probability of something coming up or waking up or someone like knocking on your door or a dog walking in, or if you're outside. Outside works really nice too, but if you're outside and doing deeper spiritual practices like detachment, it's not unusual if a mosquito will come bite you, or like a fly will come to try to take you out. But that is a very real thing. If anyone has any other questions, please let me know. I was just kind of going in with that with my detachment practice. Doing that literally, I would say about once a month, because if you find yourself you do it too often, when I say the program will respond, like you're going to find yourself you do it every week for 3 weeks, and then some stuff's going to come up and you're going to forget and it's going to be deleted from your memory. You might not do it for like 6 or 7 months. Um, reality has a nice way of kind of checking you in. That's why I say a lot of it is about 1 foot in and 1 foot out, right? It's not about, oh, you're being super spiritual in the mountains and stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. I'm not knocking that. But realize you came here to have this vibration and be around people, right? You're super spiritual. You have this calling in your heart to be around people and influence this vibration physically by being there. Yeah, you can do remote stuff. That's super cool because yeah, distance and time doesn't exist. Yeah, we all know that. All right. But if you're going to work with the system, you want to work with the code of the reality. It works best to like physically be there and just level up your game. Go out there, like get your skill up. None wrong with spiritual retreats. I took one like in October. It was amazing. Like actually, I was in California and all the power went out for 3 days. I was like forced to like detach. It was really cool actually. But with that, I knew I would need to come back and bring what I learned there with me, right? And then once I did that and I brought what I learned in my hiatus, my sabbatical, my time of detachment, you must bring that back with you. Otherwise, what's the purpose, right? Otherwise, what's the purpose of being incarnate in a physical body if you're going to attach and do all this stuff and then go on your own self and not bring anything you learned back? It's like you're eating at a table and everyone else is hungry, wants some food. You just like, oh. No, it's better to share. That's the purpose, to pollinate. Like, what did my master tell me? He's like, hey, you need to teach. Like, you get to a point, you need to teach. You're like spreading the will of the force. You're spreading, say, the will of God, the will of spirit, whatever you want to call it, by teaching and helping and sharing with others. If you learn something from this, share with them. Like, you need to do that. Like, that's the point. Like, that is the point. If anything, what helps me most in my spiritual journey is teaching, because I be learning stuff too when I'm teaching, right? Or the way people ask me things, it's like, oh wow, I haven't learned from that perspective. Or if anything, it's something on accountability, it's pollinating. If any of this stuff, if you talk about like nature, right? For those of y'all in spring, we're in spring in the northern hemisphere, and you see like all this pollen on your car and all this stuff. What do you think teaching is, right? It's pollinating. It's the force pollinating others, because one seed can plant a tree that pollinates thousands, right? Millions that pollinate millions on millions. It's just one, right? That's all it needs. That's all it takes. It's not like, oh, I got to do all this stuff. Nah, just keep doing it. You get one solid, and that's going to keep going. It's going to expand. That's exponential in that way. Is by teaching. Studying is great. It's amazing. But with our studies, we must share them. Otherwise, what is the purpose? But likewise, when you're sharing, have to answer the questions that were asked. That's why I ask. If you want to know something deeper, you got to ask. Ask a question, please. Like, please. I've been going. There was like one question asked. I've been going on from there. But yeah, it's very important that you teach. That's just something, like I say, Chewy Sensei, you doing it. You're a sensei too. You got to teach, brother. You probably are teaching, but it's just like, it's always a nice reminder to be like, oh, I want to teach. Or a lot of people know that they need to do it, but it's like, oh, what do I think? And I don't know. It's just like, no, just literally record yourself talking like this. Go live. It will connect with someone and they'll resound in the message, and then that'll help someone else. Or just post something. Like even something and doing it consistently. Because that doesn't only help others, but that helps yourself and learn to become accountable with yourself. Because one of my great friends, Jen, she shared this message with me that was, I'm paraphrasing it, but basically, we fail when we doubt ourselves, right? Or you could say reality and nature becomes impossible, or we do not achieve our goals once we doubt ourselves. Because what is doubt? Think about it. I'm not saying doubting others, but what is self-doubt? What mechanism is that really? It's almost denying your own connection to divinity within. Self-doubt in a way is denying your own will, your own word, that you're saying, I can do this before anyone else says anything. You're already telling yourself, oh, blah, blah, blah. And so what happens? This inner sense of doubt gets magnified outside, and you experience that in reality because that's the story and the narrative that you told yourself. Anything is possible without self doubt. Just had to take a deep breath for a second. But yeah, I'm going to be closing out very soon. If anyone has any other questions, did it during the zenith of the sun today. Yep. So even through that, solar practices, I'll get into that a little bit because I'll go for about another 5 minutes or so, and then I'll like go ahead, close out. But for sun, all right. So the sun's rays, all right, ray, Ray. What is Ra? Or like if you look into Egypt, or if you look into Kemet, right? What is Ray? Another way of spelling Ra, the sun. What's really interesting to me is when you look at modern history, or a lot of like historians, they mimic, not mimic, well, they do mimic, but they mock other ancient societies that are like, oh, they worship the sun. Think about this. What would exist on this planet without the sun? For real. Like, think about it. Like, what would exist on this planet without the sun? What is a piece of rock that is not around the sun or some type of star? It's like an asteroid or a comet, right? If you think about the sun and we say everything is light and there's a source of light, what is it doing? It's animating every single thing in this reality. It's almost giving the charge to the electrons and the neutrons within the atom that makes the foundation of reality. It's its source of prana itself. So if you're gonna say, "Oh, the angels didn't know anything because they worship the sun," nah, they more like knew that was like, "Hey, we're being animated by this thing. It animates everything in life. It's what gives consciousness because that's a source of light, right? The original source of light that gives life to every single thing on this planet. Even the moon in itself is a reflection of the sun, right? So that's why it gets this weird vibes from it, right? Yeah, and sun is indeed prana, all right? And so prana, right? If you're seeing these, if you're on the screen, a really nice practice, right? So try this. If on the screen, if you got Android like me or if other stuff, well, anything, you see these like little fuzzies around just from the like the pixels, right? You can see the pixels in the screen. You could practice seeing prana in the air. All right. What I want you to do, go in the restroom. Like it's best in a place without windows. Go in the restroom. If your restroom doesn't have windows, have the light on and just turn it off. Like turn it off, like look at the wall or something. And like gaze and like start to look and find these little red and blue dots, right? And they're just gonna be everywhere, right? And try to focus it and bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. You are seeing prana. You're seeing prana, and you can say the opposite of prana, right? And the micro to the macro, the sun impacts so much. Indeed. Because likewise, do we have the sun outside? We have the internal sun that rides us, right? Just like in Christianity, other stuff, it's the Son of God, spelled S-U-N, right? And that's what we gaze at as sun. A cross is a form, like a symbol of solar worship that came even from Kemet, that came even before then, that was on caves that you could see. They're like, oh, we carved it 50,000 years ago. Yeah, because if you look at the sun and it kind of squints or you take a picture, what shape does it make? Like, or Christmas lights, what shape does it make? Like when you like looking at a light and you're going down the highway, or if it's raining, what shape does it make? Imagine you only had like some berries to like color something on the wall. How are you going to depict it? Circle in the middle. All right. So a lot of these things we try to complicate too much without any necessary reason. Just like prana, becoming mindful of its existence. So this is the fuel. So when it comes to prana, what is it? What is its purpose, right? Yes, it's the ever energy. It's, you can say, orgon energy, like all that. It's the same thing, it's just different words from different time periods, right? But what is the purpose of prana? Prana is the food for your spiritual body. If you see what breatharians do, breatharians are harnessing prana to like make their body work. That's why they're in the sun all day. All right. It makes sense, right? But if you're one that like, oh, why can't, my, I astral projected this one time, it didn't work. Or, oh, I want to work on my telepathy. Oh, I want to work on my remote viewing. Or, hey, I feel really drained after this. Da, da. Well, what you need to do, sit there, get your meditation posture, tap, 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 after effect, feel it. Feel the prana entering the chest center. Imagine yourself growing brighter and brighter. Give yourself a nice, gentle smile and notice the difference that makes. Pinch right in between your eyebrows. Focus on the aftertouch. Feel the energy surging up nice and gently. Imagine there's a hole in the middle of your forehead, breathing in prana directly into ajna. So you basically do that, but you take a lot longer to do it I was just doing a general demonstration. But when you're something to add to your meditation, right, is the acknowledgement of when you're doing this of the force that you're consuming, all right, of the force that's building up the energy body, of the fuel to what's allowing you to do all these things, because everything is an exchange of energy. Like there's the first effect was a cause, as the first cause was by an effect. All right, that's some emerald tablets right there. All right, so likewise, so it goes with everything else, right? If you want to do something spiritually, or if you feel out there, you need to be able to like bring in some energy, right? Bring in some prana, right? So with that, we about to close this. And for those listening to the replay, there's going to be a guided meditation right after this. All right, so that's where I'm going to cut it. So this has been episode 8. I'm grateful for everyone joining. See you on YouTube. Oh man, first one. Thank you so much, man. It's so cool. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for joining. I am grateful for your participation and for your questions, responses. I love each and every one of you. Y'all, oh, keep it going. Spread the word, spread the vibes, keep it good times. But like everything, remember to reflect on what you learned. If you heard something on here that was like, whoa, write it down before it gets deleted from your memory. And then something comes in and distracts you. Write it down and reflect on it. Like, take out a pencil, take out your phone, screenshot something, get a thing, pencil, write it down. All right. For your own good. All right. So until then, until next week, got 7 other episodes. Check out it's on my YouTube, same thing, Sensei Shui, or on my SoundCloud. SoundCloud, I prefer try that one because that's one has like nice music in the background and the meditations at the end. So I like those. I like really like those. But for real, closing this time. So until next time, episode 9. If you have anything you'd like me to speak about or go on about, please like message me and then I'll do that. So have a nice day and namaste. Eat. Mm. Oh, I didn't even end my stream.